My next guest, just for fun, ran around Australia in the fastest time ever. He ran, averaged 84 kilometres a day and did it in a row with no breaks. I don't know, I think it was 170 days, something along those lines. Anyway, also on with him is David Jones, one of our instructors, also one of our runners, and he owns a business with Sean. It used to be for First 42, getting runners to their first 42K, and now it's Sean Bell coaching. I watched Sean's development over the last few years as he was the runner of one of my mates and DJ's best mate, Jason Cronshaw. On his first attempt to do a long run, which was Cairns to Melbourne, finishing at the MCG, Sean was running, and unfortunately, Jace died. It was a terrible year for deaths of people I know. It included Warney and Rod Marsh, along with my father and many others. Anyway, what I found outstanding is Sean took a day or two off running, came to the funeral, but kept going because he said that's what Jace would want to do. Anyway, he continued on, and it took him 6 years to plan for this run around Australia. He goes through the highs and lows and the cost, both physically, mentally, and personally, of such an event, but also what he got out of it. It's fantastic to speak.
Thank you.
We can't afford to get Sam for a full show.
Yeah, but I'm too expensive.
But thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Now, Shawnee, just on that, you saw the doctor yesterday about your foot. What's the injury update?
Yeah, so saw the foot surgeon yesterday. So about a month ago, I've been seeing him every month, and about a month ago, I last saw him. I had a cortisone in my foot. So I mentioned Freiberg's disease on my third metatarsal. I've also got a cracked plantar plate through my second metatarsal and a neuroma on the fourth metatarsal. So I've done a bit of a job. But he said, let's give it a cortisone and see what happens, see how your body responds. And honestly, 4 weeks later, I feel good. I haven't run. So maybe it's a bit of false reality. I don't know, but I feel good. The cortisone's definitely working. He's also offloaded the metatarsals, offloaded the Freiberg with an orthotic. So basically from here, he wants me to get to a new physio and podiatrist group in Sydney, and come up with a game plan, obviously in liaising with him to make sure that all the health professionals are working together, and ideally use March to set up this recovery with the new podiatrist, new physio, and then by April run walking. And if I can run walk, he said with a 3 out of 10 pain, that's fine. Push through it. What's a 3 out of 10 pain to me? And then, hopefully a month after that, I can be running. So best case scenario is run walking for all of April and then running by May. But he said, if you're presenting with too much pain, then we'll have to have 4-foot surgery, a 4-foot reconstruction. So I don't know yet. He wasn't definitive on surgery or non-surgical. Basically, we're going to try the non-surgical route first and then see how we go, because he mentioned he could do surgery and I might still have a 3 out of 10 pain after surgery, after more recovery time and more money to have surgery. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. If I can be hopefully back running by May, best case result, that's huge.
Yeah, that's good, mate. And just to give you a bit of confidence too on that, look, we see this in any high-level sports person that has a big crescendo or does achieve something great. There's always this down period afterwards where it's, you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, and it's like the Olympians, they have a big drop off, and mentally and physically you're drained. So it's not surprising, and it was kind of why I wanted to do this after a while, so you could be real and know that's there. And so it's a really good for you to speak about that. But Ali, one of our great runners, he smashed his plantar plate ligament. He disintegrated it.
DJ told me that, yeah.
Yeah, and the doctor operated. They couldn't even stitch it back together because it was so damaged. But he had kept running on it for a year, and he didn't tell me. Anyway, they pulled his tendon over, reattached that, and the doc said, I don't know if you'll ever be able to run again. You'll certainly never be able to do marathons. He said, you're not to run for 4 to 6 months. So Ali came to us. We could hear him bang, bang, bang on the treadmill upstairs, still in his boot. And he goes, look, Jock, I'm going to work with you and Huss, his mate who's a physio. Shout out to Huss. You can either work with me or I'm going to do it behind your back. but I'm not waiting 4 months. Anyway, after 3 months, he was racing again. And 4 months we went to the surgeon. I went with him because I thought, I have to hear this. And the surgeon said, mate, it's fantastic. Your range is good. The strength is fantastic. The toe's sitting in place. He goes, you could probably start jogging now for 5 minutes. And then by the end of it, he's going, oh, maybe 10 minutes, or maybe 20 minutes. And Ali goes, Doc, I've got to level with you, mate. I've done 3 races. I'm back running more than ever. I feel fantastic. I've been working with Jock and the physio, blah, blah. He goes, fantastic, Ali, fantastic. Don't ever come back and see me. so, mate, it's, you've got age on your side. He was a bit older than you when it happened. So the fact you've got a good result with the cortisone, that's great news. And at least you've got now a definitive plan of you can walk, jog by March or April, whenever it was. Yeah. And my advice would be come back on softer surfaces with very supportive shoes, which is what we do with our runners that have had issues. Don't just start running back on the concrete. But that's good. At least we've got a plan now, where last time I spoke to you about it, we didn't.
For sure. I mean, I was thinking about changing my Instagram handle from Sean Bell Runs to Sean Bell Swims Terribly. That's my focus at the moment is honestly, I've never been a good swimmer. I've never enjoyed swimming. And if I can bring a bit of balance into my running going forward, because I can focus on swimming now, then that's a great thing. So we spoke before about Mitch Love's feet. He actually this morning texted me and said, you're doing the swim leg. We're doing Noosa Triathlon later.
Oh, awesome.
As a team.
Nice.
So there's that carrot to chase, and maybe that's what will get me in the pool and the open water.
Yeah, and it's just back in a team as well, mate. With so that's awesome. Now I'm going to our coaching. You've got a little coaching gig going on here. DJ started out B&D coaching with Jace, and then it went to First 42, and now it's evolved. I'll get DJ to talk to me about that and how Shawnee got involved, and then Shawnee take over.
Sure.
Yeah, so V&B Athletics started. So Jason and I met probably 15 years ago now at a boot camp. So there's a franchise called Original Boot Camp at the time. Jace had sort of been told, you need to go there and get fit because you've got a bunch of other stuff going on in your life, and if you don't change that and change your lifestyle, then things aren't going to go well. So he'd been going, I think, for only a month at the time. I'd been working as a lawyer. Well, I still have been for at that time for about 8-9 years, traveling long distances to work, eating poorly, was just feeling a bit rubbish. And one of my friends sort of convinced me to start running. She was 20 years older than me, and I couldn't keep up with her in a trot around the city. And I was like, this needs to change. So I randomly picked this boot camp. And then on the day, we were randomly next to each other in the benchmark test that we did. And we just sort of hit it off. Jace was really the brother I never had. And we realized that pretty quickly after we met. So we'd done this. Jace had struggled with mental health issues and alcohol issues for earlier in his life before we met. And this sort of the level of training and the type of training we were doing basically changed his life and mine too. And we're like, well, we want to do this for other people. So that's sort of how V&B was born originally, is we want to set up our own thing and train other people using this. It was sort of military inspired. It wasn't shouting and screaming at people, but it was structured. It was disciplined. Exactly the sort of stuff that you do. And I think, one of the guys we met there, Vinny, then dragged me out to the sand dunes with you guys, Jock, which is how we met. So that all sort of evolved. We trained Sean. He did the 50 marathons, and then he came back to us and he said, we need to do this for other people. Like it was really just an evolution of exactly the same thing, right? This has changed my life. It's such a great way of training. We need to do this. Let's turn this into an online program. And so that's where First 42K was born, which originally was how we get people to run their first marathon, but at its heart wasn't that. It was how we make people fall in love with running. And that was sort of behind the slogan behind it. And what we really wanted to do out of it is we wanted other people to fall in love with running as much as we all had. So that's sort of how it started. And that First 42 program is still up online. But we realized over time that the sort of one-on-one coaching was what we loved. Like, as you said, I love running ultras with other people. Like I love running them myself as well, but it actually means more to me to help somebody else do it for the first time or help them get through when they're struggling or whatever it might be. Jace was a lot like that as well. We swept a lot of events together. And then out of the back of this event, we're like, well, and really what I wanted to do and what Jace wanted to do as well was help Sean get set up to make this his career, because we could tell how much he loved doing it. This is what he wants to do. He's committed, a huge amount of time to doing it. The run was really just a step in building his career and being able to coach other people, not necessarily to run around the country, but to do what makes their heart sing in terms of from a running career. So, and now it's makes the most sense that it becomes Sean Bell Runs. So we talked a lot about doing things to honour Jace's memory, having a name that sort of integrated Jace's name in it, but ultimately what Jace would want and what I want is for it to be as successful as possible, which means it should be around Sean's name. Like all the best coaches in this space, we've got Jock Athletic, we've got Sean Bell Runs. It makes sense that people associate that name with the coaching, and we bring, the way we're honouring Jace's memory is we're bringing the fundamentals into it. This is what he would want Sean to be doing. So that's how it's evolved now. So we both, Sean's doing it full time. I'm still a full-time lawyer because I've got a couple of kids and a mortgage. And but I want, it really brings a lot of meaning to my life to coach other people and to help support Sean in doing what he's doing. And so that's, that I think makes me a better lawyer and a better person outside of all the rest of this stuff, is that it's my passion to do this sort of thing. And that's sort of where it's grown to today, I guess. So.
And as I said at the start, DJ's a pretend lawyer who's actually a trainer. And Shawnee, yeah. So where are we taking this, Shawnee? Where are you headed?
So Sean Bell Run Coaching, as DJ said, I want to continue to help as many people as possible in that one-to-one format. It is incredibly rewarding. I've got a girl, Megan, at the moment working towards her first 5K, through to coaching Timmy Franklin, who is currently right now, as we're recording this potty, in New Zealand racing Southern Lakes Ultra 250K race, multi-stages, or coaching Jermaine, Big J, who's currently training for 33 marathons in 33 days, obviously very similar to where I did the 50 and 50. So it's beautiful to have such diversity, both men, women, and people of all ages in our training program. And as DJ mentioned as well, he's coaching Pete, and Pete is someone who's been with us for quite a few years now, like since we started, and just been the most amazing person to coach, because he's just, is compliant, just ticks it off, but loves it and shares that love with other people as well, and has gone from, he started and basically ran his first half marathon through to running across Bali, and he's doing some great things as well, and he's in his 60s. So we have real variety in our training program. I want to continue to do that. And just recently, actually, when I finished the run around Australia, we rebranded from First 42K to JDS Run Coaching, which stood for Joy, Discipline, Success. But it was also a nice tie back, Jace, DJ, and Sean. That's still very much a part of what we do. It's now Sean Bell Run Coaching, because I've had that advice from professionals in this space, fitness business coaches say, hey, mate, like, you've got a brand in Sean Bell. If you want to actually help more people and reach more people, do that. And if DJ is comfortable with that, then 100% do that. And as DJ spoke about, we know Jace would be as well, if it means that we can help more people. And so it is an interesting space to be in. I'm very humble, and it feels weird to be personal brand solely when DJ is still part of this, and I'm so blessed that he is. But if this is going to allow us to help more people and help them improve in running, then I want to do this forever. So running and strength coaching, this has been my journey over several years, not just the real life experience of running around Australia and Cairns, Melbourne, and these other feats, but also I went to uni and did a Bachelor of Physical Activity and Health Science, worked as a personal trainer for 5 years with my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, and then obviously also have my qualifications through Athletics Australia. So it is such a privilege to coach other people, and I want to continue to do that for many years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And from a long-term coach, I can see the coaches that are in it for themselves, and the coaches are there to help. So great coaches, in my view. I mean, the great Jason Gillespie, who was one of my cricketers, but turned out to be a magnificent coach through county cricket. He went to Zimbabwe, and he used to pay for a bunch of things from himself for his team, because that's the only place he could get a gig. all the way to international cricket. And he once said, you're a support staff. You're there to support the athletes. It's not about you. And I do see a lot of particularly younger coaches who, want the limelight, want, people to be praising them. But for both you and DJ and Jace, it was, well, three of you, it's all about the athlete. The passion you both speak about, working with your runners. It's, that's what makes a great coach, in my view. I mean, I could be wrong. Anyway, what we have in this podcast is we have the athlete power moment of the month, the week. It could be anything. It's brought to you by Hydrolyte, our good friends at Hydrolyte. Electrolytes. You supplement that with water and you absorb 20% more than if you just had water alone. Isn't that good? Anyway, so DJ, what have you seen this month that's really caught your eye and that you think has really moved you in the world of sport, athleticism, whatever it is? Go for it.
Well, I'm gonna give an example that goes to the heart of what I talk about, which is I love the achievements of people who aren't in the limelight. And so for me, it was actually one I experienced personally. So I've run for about 15 years or so in this space, but I took up cycling about 7 years ago for a charity event for Steve Waugh Foundation. Met a bunch of guys through that who love their bike riding, and they sort of converted me into the much more expensive sport of bike riding. And one of those guys, True, we've gradually been sort of beating around the head, and we converted him to trail running over the course of the last 6 months, and he's become a fanatic. But he'd never run more than, I think, 32 kilometers was his longest run before. He's like, well, let's sign up for this 50K in New Zealand, and we'll go and do that. And so I said, well, look, I'll come and do it with you. We'll run together. And he was, not surprisingly, in quite a lot of pain at the time because he hadn't had the chance to do a lot of strength training. He'd done, if I had been coaching him closely, I wouldn't have let him run it, but he's very dedicated and determined to do it. And so, but just got through it with a smile on his face, got through the hard points, managed to sort of, come out the back end and complete it in very, very good spirits. And I loved watching that, watching how incredibly happy he was to achieve it. And it is a big thing. I mean, we sort of lose sight of the fact these days there's so many people doing massive achievements. 90% of people are never going to run more than probably 10Ks in their life. So it's a massive achievement to run 50 kilometers, particularly for your first one. And just to be with him and experience that was fantastic. And at the same time, to watch Daniel Jones, who's an amazing New Zealand ultra distance runner. He's probably in the top few in the world now, particularly over the last 12 months of his running. And he left.
DJ, can you claim him as your son?
Absolutely, I'll do that.
Yeah,
yep. he left in the 100K race 10 minutes before True and I left on our 50K run. And he overtook us 100 meters before the finish line. So he ran 100 kilometers in 7 hours and 18 minutes, which is, he has won that race before, I believe, but he smashed his own record. He looked as fresh as a daisy at the end. It was just ridiculous. So yeah, it was next level running, and a bunch of the New Zealand guys actually won. So Sam Harvey, who no New Zealand runners has won the 100-mile version of the Tarawera before, and Sam's tried the last couple of years, got close last year, and this year again smashed the record. He was weeing blood for the last 5 hours of the run, and won that 100-mile race again in a record time. So just watching that level, and at the same time, True and I as ordinary everyday runners, it was a really very, very cool experience.
Yeah, awesome. I knew you were going to bring up True. Okay, Shawnee, what do you got?
I've got James Hall. He's an 11-year-old from Box Hill, which is very close to Vermont, which is where I've grown up for all these years, Vermont, Victoria. An 11-year-old, the fastest in the world right now at the 3K distance at 11 years old. And it was ridiculous. It's like around 3 minutes a K. So I've never cracked sub 3 for 1K, let alone him doing that for 3. So that was so impressive to me. And what I loved about his story is he's already got his sights set on, as an 11-year-old, he's got his sights set on Brisbane 2032. And, I would love to see him reverse engineer that goal. I know everyone in Australia would love to see him make that happen. But if he can, then that's what it's all about, is ultimately he's set such a huge goal. I mean, no bigger than the Olympics. And if he can reverse engineer that, then that's huge, and it will bring a lot of inspiration to other people.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I actually came across that kid. Reed, one of our young runners, got him at nationals in the 800, I didn't know about this kid beforehand, but he won, in record time, and Reed couldn't keep up with him. But Reed will get him next time. But young kid, and I was impressed by that story as well. Now, for my moment of the month, I've got to go back to, hi, my name's Jock and I have a problem. I've got 3 addictions. One's cricket. The other one's training. And coffee. Coffee's probably worth addiction. But mine are always going to come back to cricket pretty much. And with so much on around the world, there's a couple I want to mention. Alex Carey in the Champions Trophy, and how the development of him and his massive score in Sri Lanka in the Test matches. He's a superstar, and it's great that we're getting to see his full potential. So shout out to you, Alex. And Steve Smith, his captaincy in Sri Lanka was just unbelievable. It's great to see him back where he should. An old member of Jock Athletic there, and getting us through the Champions Trophy against England. Wasn't that a shame that we beat England in such a great match? And I think Mark Butcher put it best when he said, everyone's happy to see, this is an Englishman, by the way, everyone's happy to see England lose, I think because we're so arrogant. And that's exactly why, Mark. That is exactly why. But I have to go to one of our old members, Nathan McAndrew, who had to leave New South Wales to get a go in the big leagues, and he's been playing for South Australia. He was, I think, second leading wicket taker in the Sheffield Shield last year. He got 7 for 11 the other day in a Sheffield Shield match. So they're through. I think they're through to the final of both the one-day comp and the Sheffield Shield, which they haven't. I can't remember the last time they were, and they were cellar dwellers for the last few years. So, Macca, you win the Hydrolite Performance of the Month for me. So, great stories, boys. Now, we're just going to finish off. When I was watching the stories of your race, Shawnee, to run around Australia, where he broke the record, by the way, he ran across Tasmania, he closed the loop. It was a really weird one, the run around Australia. It didn't actually quite go around, but Sean, he's a forward thinker, and he took it one step further. But I got to the end of that race, and I was pumped for him, and but then I go, well, what do I watch now at night? There was no cricket on. But Shawnee, just run over quickly on, how that came about, the actual route of running around Australia, and why it actually didn't finish the loop, and what you've done to do that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I found, I guess, this goal of mine and came up with the goal in 2018 to run around Australia one day, I started to research, and I found Dave Alley. Dave Alley was the fastest person to run around Australia before me. And Ron Grant was the very first person to run around Australia. 1983, Ron did it. Ron's distance was 13,383 Ks. And of course, now that being over 40 years ago, roads have changed, road laws have changed, and you can try your very best to marry it up exactly. But even, for example, Dave and I, if we just use Dave as the most recent example before me, he closed the loop as well. So he started at Lismore Oval, is from Lismore, started at Lismore Oval, finished at Lismore Oval, and he ran 13,791 Ks. I closed the loop in 13,964 Ks. So there's a big difference there. I did run 57.8K the wrong way one day, which if I had have stayed on course would have ended up being 13,907. But even still, 13,907 compared to 13,791, that's a big difference. There's over 100 Ks there. Imagine that I've run 100 Ks more, but Dave's beaten me by a day. Who wins? It's hard to know. So basically, the record is broken at 13,383 Ks, and that goes back to Ron Grant, the very first person to run around Australia. But of course, I started at the MCG. I wanted to finish at the MCG. So when that 13,383 happened, it was a big moment for my team and I. We celebrated. We enjoyed it. It was the first night I hadn't gone to bed early, and actually had a few sherbets, and then in the morning, could start a little bit later. But it was ultimately like I started this at the G. I want to finish at the G. And same thing with Tasmania. When I came up with this goal and this dream as a 20-year-old in 2018, I didn't know that Tasmania wasn't a part of the record attempt around Australia. And I didn't know that not everyone had done it. Ron Grant didn't run Tasmania. Dave Alley didn't run Tasmania. Pat Farmer, who's also run around Australia, he did run Tasmania. So it's do Tasmania if you want to. That was how I always envisioned it, is I was going to do Tasmania. It was a part of my charity attempt. Tasmania is a part of Australia. I'd never been there before. I wanted to enjoy it and I wanted to give it a crack. Looking back now, I don't know if I should have done Tasmania. I didn't know that I had Freiberg's disease and all these things because I was in it. And it was a hell of a lot to put my body through. After 166 consecutive days around Australia was when I got back to the MCG. To then be on the Spirit of Tassie 4 days later and running 5 days later, like once it docked in the morning, to be underway in Tassie, it was so much for me. And yeah, maybe I'd think differently about doing it again. But at the same time, I knew I was in it. I knew so many people had given up so much, so many generous sponsors as well. I had the vehicles. I was locked into the Run for Wishes campaign. So let's go and do it. So I don't regret it, but my body was definitely hurting at that point. And yeah, it was a special journey. It's a weird one to explain how it all works, but I hope I've done it justice in explaining it there.
Yeah, that was really good, mate. And just for the viewers, our millions of viewers out there, my mum and my dad, you actually beat Dave Alley's time, even though you went further. And thank you for running through Tasmania as well.
Thank you, Jock. Yeah, it was, look, honestly, Tassie, I still had a great time down there. I had some generous crew give up their time. My brother came and crewed. He's never crewed before. It was special. It was brutal weather conditions, but still great to do. And then once the job was properly finished after Tassie, I was able to try and recover and just appreciate what it achieved. And you spoke before about Chloe being such a pillar of support. Honestly, in Tasmania, and I'm not afraid of sharing this, I share it in all my keynotes as well, because I think as a running coach, like sometimes you can do your very best to prepare an athlete and they can still have a DNF in a race. And that is so hard for that athlete to experience. And in 6 years of racing and running, I've never had a DNF. But if Tasmania was any different, like if Tasmania was a marathon format, 100K, 100 mile, well, I'd said I was done. I honestly thought I had nothing left. And Chloe reminded me of who I was and said, you're going to get back out there and finish this, because I know that that's what you truly want deep down. You have to find a way. And we were able to do that, me and my team. So, it was huge. And I'm just grateful that I was able to finish, but it was real. Like when people ask me what was the difference, like finishing in Melbourne and finishing in Tassie, Melbourne was euphoric. It was like, I've honestly got back here just with my own 2 feet, and it was unbelievable feeling. Tassie was relief. I was due for a rest.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. And as a coach and or you said it before, it's the worst thing to see is your athlete or your partner or a relative really suffering and wanting to quit, but that, and it's very hard to do. I had a girl who tried trail walker a couple of times. The team pulled out midway through 1 year, and then the next year she trained really well. And I got a call from her in the middle of the night. She goes, I'm 25 Ks from home. It's pitch black. All my team has pulled out. I have 25 Ks to go. And she just wanted me to say, it's okay, you can stop. But the one thing I said was, Cassie, how are you going to feel tomorrow when you could have finished, and I know you could have finished, and you didn't finish? How are you going to feel? She goes, I knew you were going to say that. But sometimes that's all you need. And mate, that's really, really good thing to learn both as an athlete and as, a partner and support for Chloe. That was brilliant. And like I said, Mitch and Chloe for mine, they were the players of the match, the support staff.
Yeah.
Now I've got to say, Roy, my son, was going through a tough time at school. He's only 10. He was only 10. And this is tough for me. I didn't think it'd be this tough. Anyway, I got him to watch your race. I'll be with you in a minute. I got him to watch your race and see the videos and come and run with you, because I wanted him to see there are great people in the world doing great things. School doesn't define you.
Well, mate, I don't even know how to answer that. Thank you so much. I remember running with Roy through Sydney, and it was beautiful. So I'm honoured to have had an impact on him, and just honoured that he was watching the journey, and I hope that it gave him some real strength.
Yeah, it was brilliant, mate. So for everything you've done, it was such a joy to watch. And you brought up Pat Farmer before, and this is going back to your injury. He told me after he did pole to pole, so he went from the North Pole to the South Pole, and he was pulling a sled through the snow, bent over, and he said it took him 18 months after the run to actually be able to stand straight and walk around normally. So I think with all of you ultra runners that do these ridiculous things, there has to be lasting issues, but I believe with your age, you're going to get over all this foot issue as well. Yeah. So, but thanks very much, DJ. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't. I think that's, that's just one example of the people that Sean directly impacted through what he did. There are so many hundreds of other people out there who you wouldn't have any idea have been impacted, who are watching your videos every day. So proud to call you a friend, mate, and to see what you did as part of that run, and the way you, to what Jock said, it's the way you conducted yourself through that run, not just the fact that you did what you did. But a little bit touching on Sam's question before as well, like one of the biggest things you did in this run is you found whys that were outside of yourself. And sometimes that's, we can't all get up and be motivated by what's inside us every day of the week. Like, it's just impossible. No one can do that, no matter how good you are at what you do. So you've got to find what outside of you, and whether that's another person, it's a cause, it's whatever it is, what is it that's going to make me go, no matter, I feel like crap, I'm exhausted, I'm sore, but there are other people out there, or this other cause out there means more than that. That you've got someone out there, in the case of the kids that you were running for, they're living pain, suffering, disability, disadvantage, whatever it is, 24/7 every day of their life. You've just got to go through one more day. Like that's what, in anything that you really believe in, you really want to do yourself, find what that is, and find the things, as you say, you stack the whys together to make that overcome whatever is inside you that's sort of preventing you otherwise from doing it.
So well said, Deej. Thank you. I appreciate your support and love. And yeah, it was a journey that I'll remember forever, and always cherish.
Yeah, well done, Shawnee. And thanks, Deej. Great show, boys. Like I say, this will go out to our millions of viewers. But it was really good to have a chat. And yeah, looking forward to what's to come, Shawnee.
Thank you, Jock. Appreciate your support, mate. And yeah, it was great to have a chat.
Good one.
Thanks, Jocko.
See you, boys.